Hi, I'm here to share with you a little bit about CRAYDL's new tool. It's a budgeting calculator that's designed to help you create budget, scope, and also educate your clients in under an hour. Homeowners come to us in all different stages of planning, from rough ideas to full drawings, and they all want a cost estimate. At the end of the day, they want to know how much and how long it's going to take. And a lot of the builders that we have met with spend between 10 and 50 hours preparing estimates only for the homeowner to compare the final number to other final numbers that they've gotten. And they often confuse the lowest price for the lowest cost. So we're seeking to change that. And I'll show you a little bit about, I'll show you our tool and I'll show you what it does. So I already have an account set up, and if you'd like to know how to set up an account, you can see our account setup video. But I'm just going to go ahead and log in, and you can see I've got one project in here that was budgeted at $1,700,000. If I have a set of plans in front of me or a customer in front of me, it allows me to go ahead and build a new budget, and I'm going to select one of 6 different project types. Addition only, which just means we're simply doing an addition, we're not touching any of the existing space. An addition plus existing space, we're doing an addition but we're recapturing or we're doing something else with some of the existing structure. Existing interior only, which means this is an interior only remodel. We're not going to be touching any systems or moving any walls. Existing interior and systems means we're going to be touching the interior, but we'll be making some systems changes and potentially some structural changes. We have a new home program and a casita program, sometimes referred to as an ADU, a mother-in-law suite, but this is a separate detached structure from the house. So let's just go ahead and put together a budget for a new home. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a name of test and today's date. And I'll give it a location, and we'll geomap it, and I can put a description in here of things that are important to the client. So if the client is sharing with me, that they want a wine room or that they want a pool in the backyard or whatever their sensitivities are, we can put those in here so that we can memorialize them. I'll just type sensitivities, and I'll hit save and continue. And this is now going to take me to the first step in a 24-step process where we can start to have a conversation in an organized fashion, and the answers to these questions will be building your budget. And so every question has a little tooltip. So if you want to know, what the purpose of the question is and what it's supposed to convey and what the different answers mean, you can refer to the tooltip. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in another video where we show you how to set up your unit costs, because you have the ability to adjust those. So when I normally sit down with a client and they're sitting down with a set of plans or some inspiration images, I'm typically starting with, how would you qualify your price quality mix? Is it pretty basic? Are you practical? Are you luxury? Are you ultra? And again, the tooltip explains to you what those different qualifications mean. I often have potential clients who will say, I'm pretty practical, but they're showing me pictures of 6,000 square foot houses with 14-foot ceilings and a lot of interior details and nano wall systems. And so we have to sort of level set and explain that that's really somewhere in between a luxury finish or ultra, which sort of implies that budget is not important. So we'll select luxury as a price quality mix. We ask the question, is there an existing house on the lot that we have to demolish? If we have to demolish it, how big is that house? We also want to know, we'll say it's a 3,000 square foot house. What's the condition of the lot? Is it flat? Is it flattish, which means that there's some environmental overlay? Sloped means that there's environmental overlays and a drop of up to 6 feet, and mountainside means that the drop is over 6 feet on the lot. We'll assume that this is a pretty flat lot, and we're looking to build, we'll say 5,500 square feet. And is this going to be a 2-story? Is it going to be a single story? We'll say that we're going to build out. It'll be a 1-story house. And we're going to build this on about a half an acre lot. So we'll put 26,000 feet in there for the lot. Are there any covered patios? So if we have 600 square feet of covered patio space based on the requirements, and what are we building this out of? We'll say we're building it out of wood, and that our primary top plate height is 12 feet. And we're also asking the question, the retention needs. I'm going to say yes, that we do have some retaining wall needs, and we also have some perimeter fencing needs. So because of the size of the lot, I'm going to assume that we've got 400 lineal feet of perimeter retaining wall, perimeter wall rather, and I'll just put 100 feet. Might not make a lot of sense, given that this is a flat lot, but for the purposes of generating a budget, we'll do that. And then we start to get into garages, right? So if we're doing, normally we estimate about 250 feet per parking space. So if it's a 3-car garage, we'll put 750 in there. And now this opens up some other questions. How many doors and garage door openers do we need? What's the price quality mix for the garage door package? Is the garage space going to be air conditioned? We'll say no. Is there going to be a mud room? We'll say yes. And we just have a little cheat sheet here. A small mud room is 5 lineal feet of cabinetry. A medium size is 8 lineal feet of cabinetry. A large is 12 lineal feet of cabinetry. You have the ability to update these as well. We'll say that this is going to be a medium size. Kitchen, same thing. We have a little cheat sheet. So this is really, so, you know, a kitchenette is typically about 12 lineal feet of cabinetry. A small kitchen, 16 feet. And a large kitchen is what we find most people doing these days, 32 lineal feet. That's typically an L-shaped kitchen with an island. We can also dial in the price quality mix for the appliance package and separately for the cabinet package. And we can also talk about the pantry needs. And this is one where we're seeing a lot of messy kitchens or butler's pantries or scullery kitchens. There's all different names for what they are. But what we really want to know is, are you just looking to do cabinets? Are we looking to do cabinets and plumbing? Or are we planning on having appliances in there? We'll put that we're doing cabinets, plumbing, and appliances. We asked the question then, are there any other is there any other cabinetry needs outside of just the kitchens, the bathrooms, and the laundry room? So if we're looking at, say, so if we're looking at a hallway and that hallway has 16 lineal feet of built-in cabinetry, we'll add that in there. If we have wine cellar needs, we can say that we want to do a wine wall, and I'll assume that we're doing 10 lineal feet of wine wall space. We won't add a basement to this house, but if we'd said yes, it would open up some additional questions. And then we want to know how many primary baths, how many full baths, and how many half baths. So we'll do 1, 4, and 1. And one of the reasons that we ask this question is because we size it differently. We have a different number of plumbing appliances and tile allocated to a primary bath than we would a full bath. So we make a differentiation there. How many laundry rooms do we need? We'll say that we need 1, and let's assume that we're doing 2 washers and 2 dryers in each one. And the size of the laundry room is a medium, also with a cheat sheet of how many lineal feet of cabinetry go into that space. Here we're asking how many bedrooms that include offices and rooms that really don't have any kind of specialty purpose, you know. So I'll say that we're doing 5 bedrooms and an office, so for a total of 6. And now we're asking about the closets in the primary bedroom. So, you know, are we doing nothing? Are we doing rods and shelves? Do we have a modular or semi-custom kind of situation, or are we doing something fully custom? We'll assume that we're doing custom in the primary, and every place else will just do rods and shelves. We're now getting into fireplaces. Let's assume we have 2 fireplaces in this plan. We have no outdoor fire pits. And how much square footage approximately would we expect to need in order to be able to clad the fireplace in stone or tile? And so with 2 fireplaces and 14-foot ceilings, and assuming we're going all the way up and that we have about 10 feet across, I'm going to assume that we need about 170 per fireplace. So we'll say 340 between the 2. And here we get into home automation. So some people don't want to wave it off. Some people just want to get the house hardwired, or we can select smart home. And now we can talk about, well, what are we specifically trying to make smart? Is it window automation? Are we trying to provide speakers everywhere? Are we doing a wired-in security system? Do we have door locking? Do we have a home theater so that we can create budgets for those as well? What are the gas needs? So do we have a new propane? Are we adding new propane? Do we have an existing propane tank? Do we have natural gas? I'll say that we have natural gas, and I can see what I can quantify as 6 drops in this plan. And in this municipality, we'll also need fire suppression. Drywall thickness for the walls will make 1/2 inch, and we'll assume that we're using 4 by 12 sheets of drywall. And the price quality mix for the doors and windows, this looks pretty luxurious to me. There's a lot of big openings. And we'll say that we're going to use 2 types of exterior wall cladding. We'll make, looks like about 80% of the house is synthetic stucco, and there's another 20% that is brick and stone. The roof pitch is a 612 roof pitch, and they're looking to do a standing seam metal roof, and 100% of the roof gets this. We are planning on doing spray foam insulation. The cut fill on this is pretty minimal. Looks like we're going to have to import about 50 cubic yards of dirt. We don't have a spec for interior design yet, so I'm going to assume we're doing square MDF. I don't see any indication of casement windows. My client did mention that they wanted to do the great room in tongue and groove. I don't see any wall treatment needs. And now we kind of get into services. So how well designed are they at this point? If they're fully designed, interior design, landscape design, all the engineering's done, you can just say no. If they're not, this gives you the ability to also educate them. Like, is there a licensed architect needed where you are? If they don't have interior design completed, is there interior design needed? Do they need 3D modeling? Do they need the house furnished? And so we'll just mark the rest of these no for now for simplification. We'll say that they have MEP done, and soils are done, and stormwater and drainage is done, and that their landscape design is done. We can put in here an estimate for how long the design and planning coordination will take. And our firm offers an additional service for design support throughout construction, so we have that in there as a question. And then we get into the backyard. So I'm going to say that this is a pretty luxurious backyard that we have in the plans, and our outdoor kitchen needs. And again, I encourage you to refer to the tooltips so that it's, so that you understand what the difference is between those respective needs. But we've got a built-in barbecue and sink and storage, and so I'm going to qualify that as luxury. We have a new standard pool going in. There's no existing pool to remove. There's no spa. It looks like we have about 2,800 feet of driveway and walkway in here, and about 600 feet of patio and deck and paver surfaces. And they have, what I would call not super dense plans for landscaping, but something that's pretty impractical. And there's no casita in this house. And so now we get into the general contractor, and we can set these up as defaults for you, or you can share how it is that you make your living. So do we need to include the cost of permits? Do you do your work on a fixed bid or cost plus basis? How much do you charge for weekly site supervision? What's your insurance rate? What kind of contingency do you want to put in there? How long does it typically take for you to execute a project like this from the time there's shovels in the ground? What's your general contracting fee, and what's the local tax rate? And now we'll have a full budget of everything that we planned for based on the way that we answered the questions. So you'll see we have an administration fee and city review fees. We call each of these roles, sometimes internally, you probably refer to them as cost centers on a project basis. What are we typically spending for framing labor and framing materials and masonry and gas based on the way that we answered the questions. So and I encourage you to look at this through other budgets that you've prepared or projects that you've finished to see if there's any glaring deficiencies or anything that you're seeing. Like here, we're seeing a 0 in cabinetry for some reason, so I'll have to go take a look at that. But you can go through and see and start taking a look at, well, what is that project, based on the way that you understand it, going to cost. Now, this is really important. This is a budget. It's not an estimate. You haven't sent out work to subcontractors yet for bid. But based on the way that they've answered the questions and the way that you've been pricing previous jobs, this is a reasonable number that they need to get their arms around. And if that number is unpalatable, well, then we need to go create a new budget and answer the questions differently. So that's a short introduction into how the calculator works today. Please be sure, if you're interested, to take a look at our videos on how to create an account and how to set up your unit costs to make sure that the outputs are consistent with the way that you've been pricing things based on the pricing and costs that it So that's a little bit about the calculator and how this works and how we can use this to drive scope and budget. And by asking all these questions to our customers and asking them to really think about these things, we have an opportunity to educate. Once the budget's done, it'll then show up in your budget screen. It'll also show up in your project screen. I'm just going to move that out of the way. So we can go here. Here's our new budget that we've just created. And we can go through from here, and once we're done with it, we can archive it. We can edit the answers in here. So if there's something that the client wants to go back and change, you can do that. You can duplicate it so that you have an opportunity to make a new budget and go back, and maybe you have a luxury version and a practical version, so that they can see what the impact is to cost. And at any point in time, you can also edit the unit costs for that project. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Here, for every one of our roles, we have a unit cost calculation. So for example, we have in here that if we need to get a geotechnical report and establish the soils conditions, we typically spend about $2,000 on that. When we're doing grading and drainage work, the costs are different based on the condition of the lot. And so we contemplate that in these estimated unit costs. If we start going into some of the unit costs that you're a little bit more familiar with, we want to know what you're spending on a dumpster, a 40-yard container every 20 days. What are you spending what are you spending per week on fencing and sanitation? And we extrapolate that out against the number of months that you expect the project to take. What are you spending for interior demolition? What are you spending when you're knocking down a house? What are you spending for excavation and site preparation on a price per square foot basis based on the conditions of the lot? We also take a look at what the costs are for finishes in here, and systems. So what are you paying per ton of cooling? What are you paying for registers when somebody is doing a basic house versus a practical house versus a luxury house versus an ultra house? How much are you paying per drop for plumbing? And what are you paying for propane tanks, and so on and so forth. Here we get into electrical. So typically our builders are spending about $9.50 a foot for labor and materials to wire up a house with panels, not including the fixtures. And we have multipliers in there based on their price quality selection. So if they're luxury, typically they're going to need more electrical to more places. We give that a 20% bump. If money is not an issue and they select ultra, we then give that a 55% bump. So you have the ability to adjust these on a per project basis. You also have the ability to adjust these on a global basis for your organization. So you can go into settings and you can go into adjustment. And these are all your global unit costs. So you have the ability to set it up to ensure that what you're budgeting is aligned with what things are actually costing you based on your last few projects. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at hello@CRAYDL, spelled CRAYDL.com. Thanks.